fight the corporate state against all forms of control. We retaliate. We're not asking questions, we're making demands. Get out of my way, get off of my land. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. Your authority. We don't want to be an institutional commodity. We recognize the cracks in your facade. We don't believe in your patriarchal God. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to
All right, folks, I am back here. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. I believe I've been off for the whole first part of the show, and I didn't even realize it. I do apologize, but I should be back now. I had some I had some audio difficulties. I've been having a lot of audio difficulties here recently. If you know, the first 30 minutes of one of my shows a couple of weeks ago was just dead air because I was having audio cable problems again, but anyway, so I am here, and I thank you all for tuning in this evening to UCY.TV for the Liberty Battles Radio Show. This is the Liberty Battles Radio Show, and I am your host, Alex Allen. I come at you live Mondays and Fridays, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific here on UCY.TV. I want to thank you so much for supporting UCY, for supporting me, for supporting my work, for supporting Liberty Battles, for supporting everything and all of the continued support and everything that you constantly do. Now, this show, I had already got off on I'd already said everything. I had already said everything and made my big announcement, but none of it was on air, and I didn't even realize it because I wasn't on air. So anyway, I just gave a heartfelt speech to no one. But anyway, so tonight's show is going to be a little different. As many of you know, this is Monday night, which is normally the Gun Talk show you hear on Liberty Battles. But things are going to go a little differently tonight because I do have a bit of a big announcement to make. With regards to the future of my independent media work, with regards to, just all kinds of different stuff. And I want to really break some stuff down and talk to you about this show and the future of this show and what's going on. And, I do have a big announcement to make. So, again, I have a couple of articles here printed out that I wrote today over some different stuff. And I might get to them, but I'm probably not even going to get to them. I printed them out and they're here on the desk with me, but I'm probably not even going to get to them at all. Because I have some other stuff to talk about this evening. So anyway, I've been thinking a lot here recently. I've been putting a lot of thought into a lot of things, and, I think we all have those moments when we sort of look on, where we are in life and what's going on and what we're doing and whether or not that's what we should be doing or what we think we should be doing or what we saw ourselves doing, years ago when we pictured what we would be doing at this time. We all kind of have to step back and analyze the situation from time to time. And I've certainly been doing that here recently. And, as many of you know, I'm very involved in, alternative independent media. I do a lot of stuff. And, I do this radio show. I do I do writing. I do, articles and things. I've done some YouTube work. I've done all kinds of different stuff. In the past, and I've been doing this for several years. And as many of you know, I am pretty young, and I started out, even younger, obviously. So, I've been doing this stuff and trying to figure out what my real passion is, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm meant to do, what I need to do, and what I need to focus on as not only a career path. Because, the career and the money and making a career and making money and stuff, and that's obviously important because we have to do that, as human beings to live life unless we're going completely off grid and the whole 9 yards, which wouldn't be a bad option at this point, as we all know. But, that's part of it. But, just finding my point in life because I obviously don't want to be a 9-to-5, fast food worker. I obviously don't want to be any sort of 9-to-5 office job worker. I want to follow my passion. And I've come to the conclusion recently that writing is definitely my passion. And, that, regardless of the fact that, I'm interested in radio, I'm interested in TV, I'm interested in, film, I'm interested in all sorts of different media, but I've discovered recently that writing is definitely where I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to do. That being said, I feel that this radio show has been lacking in quality. I haven't brought you the good show that I should bring you. When I started this show last summer, I had big plans for the show. And I thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, it's going to be really great, I've got all these big plans, all these things I'm going to do, all these people I'm going to have on, and it's just going to be fantastic. But as a whole, it really hasn't been. And as a whole, as just a general grade, I wouldn't give myself a very good grade at all on how I've done with this show and how the show is developed. And, it's been an utter failure, in my opinion. And, there have been some shows that have been good, good quality radio. I've done some good shows where, I've had some good rants or I've gotten off on some good topics. I've had some good discussions, with people. I've had some interesting guests on, some interesting people on the show. There was a couple of shows where I was able to have people call in and had some interesting discussions. And, I have had a few shows that, have really, I thought were good quality shows, but there were only a few of them. And at this point, I don't see myself developing the show, the way that I thought I was going to when I first started it. I don't see myself going the places with the show that I was hoping to, that I was wanting to. And it's not that I couldn't do it, it's that I haven't done it, I haven't had the discipline to do it, and now that I'm realizing what I'm really meant to do, is be a writer and do this writing, I want to focus more on that, and I know that definitely focusing strictly on my writing, I'm not going to be able to bring you the good quality show that you deserve as listeners. So, that being said, I am going to take a break from the show. And I don't know if this is going to be permanent. I don't know if it's going to be just for several months, a year. I don't know. But I am going to take a break from the show. And I'm not going to do the show for a while. I'm going to focus on my writing. I'm going to really focus on what I do best and really try to bring something of good quality to people. Because I don't want to stretch myself out very thin and do all of these different things and try to do some YouTube stuff and try to do some video work and try to do some radio work and have a good radio show and do some writing on the side too. I don't want to stretch myself out over all of these things and wind up having 200 things that I do that are all terrible quality. I want to do something that is good quality. One thing that is excellent quality. I'd rather do one thing that is the best that I can do than 200 things that are terrible. So again, I am going to be taking a break from the radio show. Now, is that to say that radio won't be a part of my future? I don't know. Another radio show, I may do radio again in the future. Is that to say that a reincarnation of this show might not happen, at some point in the future? It very well may happen. Once I get things, going, once I get on track with my, radio program, or with my writing, once I get on track with my life, with my writing, with everything that I'm doing, and everything that I want to do, with that, once I get that on track, I might decide, hey, I did enjoy doing the radio show because I do enjoy doing it. I might decide, hey, I'll do that again on the side. Maybe do it once a week or maybe go back to twice a week or maybe do something else. I don't know. But again, it's not going to happen for a while. Because I do have some work to do on myself. I have some work to do building myself up as a person before I can really focus on doing something like this. And I really have to focus on, again, what I'm best at, which is my writing. So, that being said, I appreciate all the support that all of you have given me. There's so many of you that listen to my show regularly. And I don't know why you do it. I mean, the UCY community is like the most devoted community in the world. Just a devoted community of people, because, you know, everyone is, you know, I have so many people who listen to me regularly, and I know I'm bringing you horrible quality shows 90% of the time. Maybe more than 90% of the time. I'm bringing you horrible quality shows, and I'm not afraid to admit that either. I know they've been horrible. You know, I was trying to hide under this whole false sense of, you know, I'm still developing, I've still got stuff to do, I've just got so much going on, I just don't have time. You know, I was trying to hide under these false excuses, but the reality is, I've been bringing you crappy shows. And, you know, again, that's not fair to you, that's not fair to me. So, the whole point of this show was to bring a good quality, informative show, good quality, informative information. It was going to be a platform for me to talk about the articles that I write, and to talk about other articles, other news stories, other events, other things that are going on that I find interesting. I had plans to develop this outside of just a specifically political paradigm. I had all sorts of plans. And again, it's not that those plans wouldn't have worked. It's that they require dedication, and they require perseverance, which I don't seem to have with this show, because I guess it's just subconsciously I've known the entire time that this isn't what I'm meant to do right now. And that I'm really, some sort of force in the universe is trying to tell me that I need to be writing, that I need to be focusing on my writing. And I have been focusing a lot more on my writing here recently. I've been putting out more articles than I usually do. I have been working even on a novel, which I I'm working on a novel that kind of addresses some serious issues, but in a storytelling manner, in an interesting sort of thriller story. And, I mean, it's a lot of fun to write. And, I've had the concept, I've had the idea for a couple of years, but I just haven't, again, I haven't disciplined myself. I haven't realized that I need to focus on my writing. I haven't realized that, and I've been trying to spread myself out all over the place, and I haven't been able to sit down and focus on this. So I do have a novel that I'm working on now, and I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about it. It is sort of a collapse of society sort of story, collapse of the power grid, collapse of the economy, that sort of story, and it addresses some cultural issues, some good, some diversity issues in culture, but anyway. So I'm working on that, working on my articles for digitaljournal.com, which is a website I write for theantimedia.org, which is a site I write for. I'm working on a couple of different blogs that I'm getting up and going, and, again, the novel. So all of this stuff, I'm working on with my writing, and there isn't time. This is something that I've thought about for several days here, and I've realized I've been cutting some things out of what I'm doing because again, I've realized that writing is the core of what I need to be doing, and I've been cutting things out, and the radio show is something that's been on my mind for the last several days, and I've realized that there really isn't a piece of the puzzle left for this radio show at this point in time. So that's where it is. I will be doing the show this Friday. Of course, I'm going to be finishing off the show tonight. I will be doing the show again on Friday, but Friday will likely be my last show here on UCY, the last edition of the Liberty Battles radio show. I'm trying to come up with something really interesting, really informative, really cool that I can do for the last show, for this Friday's show. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm thinking of some different stuff that I could perhaps tackle on the show on Friday to make it a really awesome, really powerful last hour on radio for me, for at least for a while. But yeah. This Friday is going to be my last show, and that's where we stand. That's where we stand at this point. And I've always, if you've drawn anything from my show, I hope it's this, because this is a point that I've tried to hit this point so many times, and it is this. Well, it's sort of several points tied up into one. For one, positivity is the key. When I first started learning about this, I was really young. Of course, again, as you know, I'm still pretty young now, but I was really young when I started learning about this, and I kind of didn't know what to do. All this information was coming at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. All this stuff's going on in the world I didn't know about. This whole thing's a scam. There's a big scam going on. I'm being scammed. And I was angry about it. And I was pissed off. And I was fearful of things. I started, when you first start getting into it, you start connecting the dots and you start looking into all this stuff, and you don't know how to decipher what's the real information or what's just the total paranoia hype. And so, I looked at a lot of these things and I bought into a lot of the hype and a lot of the paranoia. Like, oh my God, I'm going to wake up in the night and government agents are going to be beating down my door and they're going to take me away to the FEMA camps. And I've got to learn to, I've got to do this. And I had this whole sort of distorted view of what was going on, several years ago when I first started trying to do all of this stuff. And I was really not any good at anything. And I didn't know what was going on. I knew what was going on, but I had a distorted view about it. Again, I had this paranoid view that they were coming, and that's not the view to have. And I've learned that the view to have is to be optimistic, to be positive, and to look at things, prepare. I've always said prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And you don't have to take life too seriously. I mean, obviously there's a time to be serious and there's a time to not be too serious. And I think most of the time we can justify not being too serious, considering the fact that we are here on this earth. We could argue about why we're here. If you believe in a higher power, in creationism, if you believe in a God of sorts, which I do. In many ways, believe in some sort of cosmic force, some sort of entity, some sort of God. And, you can believe in that, or you can believe it's fate, chance, whatever. The reason that we're here, we are here, and we're given this body, we're given this life, we're given all of these things, and we're given all these tools. Each of us have our own individual skill sets. Each of us have our own individual abilities. So we need to use those for good things. Use them for positive things, and be happy. Be happy about life and just live life and enjoy life. And that's something that I've been learning a lot here recently, and that's something that I hope, the one thing I hope you can take away from my show, which again is something I've said several times, is use your own talents and abilities, use your own skills to do what you want to do what you're passionate about, but to also do something good for humanity at the same time. And that's something that I've mentioned several times on the show, and I hope that is, if anything, something that you can take away from this, from my short run here on UCY, is that you should always use your skills, use your abilities. I'm doing this because I've always been passionate about media. Again, regardless of the fact that now I've realized that writing is the core and that's what I need to focus on mainly, I have always been interested in radio and, again, TV and media, production, video, audio, just all kinds of different stuff, print media, journalism. I've always been interested in that sort of thing. And so that's led me down this path to trying all these new and different things. And of course, writing is at the core of that. And I've realized that I've always been a writer at heart. But some people are not meant for that sort of thing. And a lot of times in this movement that we have, this anti-establishment movement, this anti-New World Order movement, the liberty, freedom movement, whatever you want to call it, this movement, we get a lot of ideas sometimes thrown around that the only ways you can do anything is to either do independent media, be an independent journalist, or to actually be out on the streets picketing and holding up picket signs and doing that sort of thing. And that is so far from the truth, and that is such a messed up way of looking at things. There's so many things that we can be doing as human beings, and if we could live up to our potential as human beings, if everyone in this movement could live up to their potential and use their personal skills to do something for the movement or for humanity in general, then we could be thousands of years in the future. I mean, we could be doing so well, and this movement would be doing so much better, and it would just be, it would be great. It would be fantastic. As I've said before, some people are made for media. Some people are made for radio. Some people are made for writing. Some people are made for this. Some people are made for that. Some people are not, some people are made for music. Some people have a natural talent for music, natural abilities for music. They can sing. They can dance. They can do, they can play an instrument. Some people have a natural ability for film, for producing film, or for composing film, or for acting, or theater work, that sort of thing. Some people have a natural ability for cooking, even cooking. And there are all of these things, no matter what you do best, no matter what your true passion is, follow it in life and do something good with it. And that will make you happy, and that will progress this movement. Don't look at this as don't look at the movement or the, whatever you want to call it, this general fighting against the establishment, fighting against the status quo, fighting against the powers that be, I guess you could say, to give it a general, just to generalize things. Don't look at fighting against the establishment or the status quo as necessarily a duty or something that you are forced to do, something you feel obligated to do, something that don't look at it as a job. Look at it as an opportunity to build yourself as an individual, but at the same time, do something meaningful with your life. Do something meaningful on a larger scale. That's what we should be doing as human beings. And if we can do that, again, there's no telling what we can do as a species, what we can do as human beings. How far we can go, what we can do, what we can achieve. There's just endless possibilities to what can happen if we do what I just said. So again, I guess that is really the point that I've tried to drive home at several points in time throughout my time doing this show. And that's the point that I try to bring up a lot in everything that I do, and I try to encourage people to do that. Because if you're doing something that you don't enjoy in life, then there's really no point. Because you have to enjoy life and you have to do what you love, but at the same time, do something meaningful. And I think, there's always a question as to what life is really about. What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? And I think that really that's it. That sums it up. That sums it up right there. Do what you love. Do what you're passionate about. Do what you can do. But at the same time, use that to do something meaningful. I think that's really the core of the general meaning of life. So I've really gotten down the philosophical hole this evening, I suppose. But it happens. And I've been thinking about all this kind of stuff here recently, thinking about my future, thinking about what I'm, destined to do, I guess, and what I need to be doing, and whether or not what I am doing is what I think I should be doing. And it's not. None of this is what I think I need to be doing. There's so many different things that I could be doing, but I'm not. And I just feel that it's all sort of coming to a boiling point, I suppose. So there you have it. So once again, if you're just tuning in, or if you missed part of the first part of the show or anything like that, I am taking a break from the show. I am sort of stepping down from the show, and I'm perhaps permanently, perhaps not so permanently. I'm not sure at this point, but it is at least going to be quite a long time before I do the show again. Other than, like I said, tonight I'm finishing out the show, and then Friday I will do the show. But that'll be my last show. So I am stepping down. I am doing that. And, again, I don't know if there's going to be a reincarnation of this show in the future, or if there will be another show that I'll do in the future. Because, I do like radio, and I do enjoy radio, and it's something that I enjoy, but I don't think it's what I really, need to be doing right now. I don't think it's what I really am supposed to be doing right now, I guess you could say. So, so there you have it. Well, I tell you what, I've spent so much time on this. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and do sort of a normal-ish show, here for these last 20 or so minutes that I'm on air tonight. And then Friday, I'm gonna do the show again, and Friday is gonna be my last show here on UCY, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do at this point for the Friday show. I'm gonna try to come up with something interesting, something cool to do for the last show, but I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. It may be nothing. Maybe just me rambling to you again. I don't know. That's pretty much been the entire, what this show has been thus far. It's just me rambling. Just since I started the show. But, so anyway, I want to get into some of this stuff. I want to start, take these last 20 minutes or so here on the show tonight to talk about some of these articles that I wrote today. I wrote 2 different articles today, one of them for digitaljournal.com and the other for theantimedia.org. I'll read the digitaljournal.com article first because that's just a simple article. I'll address it, make a couple of points about it. And then the anti-media article is actually, I'm going to go a little bit further into that because it's more extensive, and I'm going to get into probably start ranting and raving again, but we love it, don't we? We love to rant and rave on this radio program. All right, Utah bill would make things easier for open gun carriers. This is an article, again, that I wrote for Digital Journal today. Utah bill would make things easier for open gun carriers. A new bill that is now headed to the Utah governor's desk would make it easier for gun owners in the state to openly carry their firearms. While open carrying a firearm is currently legal in the state of Utah, some lawmakers fear the state's laws on the issue have not been clear enough to prevent peaceful open carriers from being slapped with disorderly conduct charges. House Bill 0276, a bill that recently passed both the state House and Senate in Utah, is now headed to the desk of Utah Governor Gary Herbert for a signature. If Herbert signs the bill into law, gun owners who choose to openly carry their firearms will no longer have to worry about charges and confrontations with police officers for simply having their firearms openly displayed in public. Proponents of HB 0276 believe the new law will help to prevent police officers from filing charges and making arrests as a result of man with a gun calls, as most of the open carry confrontations come as a result of worried citizens who are perhaps unaware of the legality of open carry contacting local police when they see a person openly carrying a firearm. This new legislation was proposed after pictures surfaced last year of a man in a JCPenney store with a rifle slung across his back. Of course, this man is not the only one to assert his open carry rights in a somewhat controversial manner, and Utah is not the only state that has been impacted by this issue. Last year, a veteran in Temple, Texas, was forced to pay a $2,000 fine for interfering with the duties of a police officer after he was stopped while open carrying an AR-15 on a 10-mile hike with his son. Other videos, stories, and images of confrontations over legal open carry have surfaced in the past. Once again, that is an article that I wrote today. That was it in its entirety. The article was for digitaljournal.com, titled Utah Bill Would Make Things Easier for Open Gun Carriers. Now, basically, what this is, they're coming out and they're saying, hey, this is ridiculous that we're having all these open carriers stopped. We're having frivolous use of the police department. The police are having to go out on these calls when people are calling in, paranoid about some gun owner out there toting around an AR-15 or just a pistol or just a, whatever. And, they're having frivolous use of the police force. So this is ridiculous having to go out there every time and confront these guys, and it's just a big mess. So hey, let's do the sensible thing and let's not do that anymore. Of course, there shouldn't even have to be a law that defines this. There shouldn't even have to be a law passed that says, hey, if someone's doing something that isn't against the law in the first place, you shouldn't slap them with disorderly conduct charges. I mean, this should be common sense. This shouldn't have to be a law. It's basically giving us rights that we already have through legislation, which is one of the most dangerous things to do in society. But, because it indoctrinates people and gets people on this whole, mindset that government is God and that we have to have government to tell us every move to make, tell us everything to do with our lives. But again, basically what they're doing here is they're saying, enough is enough. We're gonna let people open carry. We'll see how this goes. If it passes, I'm not sure even if maybe it actually did pass today, or it's already passed, but the governor has to sign it. I don't know if he signed it into law today or not, but he will be sometime soon, if not. But once he signs it into law, which I'm sure he probably will because he is a Republican governor, which again, the two-party system is always a big farce, but, being a Republican governor, he's more likely to be, more on the bandwagon with these gun rights, issues. So he'll probably sign it into law and we'll see, maybe that'll work for that state, and maybe, in Utah we won't be seeing the frivolous use of the police department when they're called out to confront, legal open carriers. And, I have a theory, I have a philosophy on open carry. And, I don't really advocate doing it myself, and I don't really do it myself because it's just opening a can of worms. Now, if I was deliberately trying to make a point, then yeah, I suppose I would do it. But, it's not practical. Practically speaking, you're carrying a firearm for self-defense. Well, in a self-defense situation, I don't believe that open carrying is going to be a tactical advantage for you, considering the fact that, let's say you're in a restaurant, a person comes in with their own firearm to do actual harm with it. They're going to rob the store. They see you open carrying a firearm, and their first assumption is, oh, I've got to take this guy out first because he's the one with the gun. So they're going to come after you first. That's just a tactically speaking, that's your disadvantage there with open carrying in a self-defense scenario, in a self-defense situation. And, you look at it any way you want, but that's true. If you're concealed carrying a firearm, they don't see it. You still have that protection on you, but the bad guys don't see it. So again, that's sort of the tactical disadvantage there. It's also just a lot of these open carriers go out with the intent of, some of them go out with the intent of making a point, and that's okay. If you're wanting to make a point, if you're just carrying and saying, hey man, if you, and a police officer comes out and you just say, hey man, this is my right, what are you doing? That's fine, and I can definitely understand that. Because, there is this culture against guns. We've been indoctrinated as a culture against guns. Guns are bad. And just going out there and making a point and showing people that you are peaceful and you have a gun and you're not going to do any harm with it, and arguing with the police officer that, yes, it is your right. I can understand that. Some people do it for the sheer thrill of having a confrontation. They want conflict. Some people actually want conflict, and they want to go out and open a can of worms and be, and those are the ones that get really, really cocky when a police officer confronts them, which I can understand being passionate and being assertive with the person, especially if they're trying to detain you or, arrest you, for doing something that's completely and entirely legal, lawful, and, moral. I can understand being assertive, but some of these people just get cocky and, well, you just, and, there's no room for that. We can't have a bunch of people going around, because these are the people that are going to get blown up in the media as the faces of the gun movement, of the gun culture, of the gun rights movement. And that's not a good idea, to have these people at the forefront, because people are going to look at that and say, oh my God, look at all these gun owners. They're just so cocky and they're so, pissed off all the time and they're such jerks. And, I don't want that guy having a firearm. So that is the problem that I have with a lot of these open carriers who go out for the sole purpose of, causing a stir. They want to cause a stir. That's their goal. When on the other hand, you can go out and know that you could potentially cause a stir, but that's not your real goal. Your real goal is just to assert your rights. That's fine. Again, I'm fine with that, but the people, a lot of these, especially the ones you'll see the videos posted on YouTube, they're just cocky and they're looking for trouble, and there's no room for that. There's really just no room for that whatsoever. So that's my stance on the whole open carry issue. And once again, with this whole case in Utah, obviously we don't need this law to tell us that, we need to stop slapping these charges on the people who aren't doing anything illegal. But they're doing it, and so at least it'll make it easier. At least it will hopefully make things easier for people who are just peacefully open carrying their firearms for whatever reason. And for me, open carrying, since I'm not 21 at this point, open carrying is the only legal form of carry that I can do in the state of Kentucky, unless of course I'm on my own property, then I can do whatever I want. But, going out in public places, open carry is the only legal form of carry that I can do. So, it is a situation that you fall into there. Some people, I guess have to open carry if they're going to carry a firearm for defense. So anyway, that is that. That is the lowdown on that situation. Well, we've got a few minutes left here on the show, and I want to go over this other article that I wrote. It's not a gun-related article, which, as you know, the money shows have been the gun shows for a while, been the gun talk shows, but this is, with this being the last week I'm doing the show and everything, I'm not going with any form or anything. I'm just kind of throwing some stuff together. I didn't even know if I would get to any of these articles tonight. I just printed them out just in case. But anyway, here's a political article that I wrote today for the antimedia.org, which if you don't already, you should go check out that site and that show and everything. The Anti-Media Radio, I believe, is right after this show, so definitely check them out over there. But I wrote this for the antimedia.org Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, the closet neoconservatives. And this is an article that I've been wanting to write for a while, and I finally did it, and I finally compiled some, sort of a short, sweet article, but I hit the point, I hit the nail on the head, and I got the points across that I was wanting to get across. So I'll read it off to you now, and then I'll break it down if I have time at the end. We're all familiar with Rand Paul, right? The so-called hero of the Tea Party Libertarian Republican movement, or whatever they're calling it these days. He's been the talk of the town recently, as polls have been showing that a large number of Americans want to put him in the White House in 2016. USA Today reported yesterday that Rand Paul is currently leading in the opinion polls over other potential 2016 GOP presidential candidates like Mike Huckabee, Jeb Bush, and Chris Christie. The mainstream media even appears to be holding tightly to the idea that Rand Paul is going where his father never went, suggesting that he has garnered more support than his 12-term Texas Congressman father, Ron Paul, ever did. As the Tea Party Libertarian Republicans are pleasuring themselves to the idea of a Paul in the White House, however, let's first take a look at what Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and some of these other Tea Party politicians really stand for. First of all, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz need to come out of the closet. No, I'm not talking about their sexuality, I'm talking about their ideology. The simple fact is that Paul and Cruz are both neoconservatives. They're supporting the exact same policies that have been propped up by the establishment Republicans for years. Last year, Rand Paul spoke with some evangelicals and assured them that he wants to continue the war on drugs and supports traditional marriage. Yet he is being propped up by many mainstream and alternative media outlets as some sort of libertarian Superman. Paul has also been distorting his father's views on the Federal Reserve. Rather than choosing between joining his father in a campaign to end the Fed or distancing himself from the end the Fed movement, he has perverted his father's stance on the issue, suggesting that an audit of the Federal Reserve is what they have both been pushing for decades. Let us also not forget who the supposed anti-establishment Rand Paul has been throwing his support behind recently. It came as a big shocker to many Ron and Rand Paul fans when Rand endorsed then Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney in 2012. He has also endorsed fellow Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, the establishment Republican career politician who has been on the payroll of Monsanto and received campaign contributions from J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Speaking of Goldman Sachs, it's also worth pointing out that Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi, is a Goldman Sachs vice president. So why does it seem as though Rand Paul is selling out his beliefs and perverting the principles that his father has continued to stand by for so many years? Well, clearly he's an Israeli agent provocateur from Neptune, or perhaps he's just been sucked into the political game that his father was somehow able to distance himself from for decades. Either way, principled libertarians should be very careful and not throw their support too quickly behind Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, or any of these other Tea Party Republicans. So that is, again, an article that I wrote today for the antimedia.org. It is titled Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, the Closet Neoconservatives. So you can go check that article out. I just read it to you in its entirety, but you can go check it out if you'd like. And yeah, I mean, this is something that I've talked about several times on the show here, and it's very serious. We have this whole co-opted libertarian movement going on. And some of you, I know some of my listeners may not be libertarians. I happen to be a libertarian anarcho-capitalist at heart. And that's fine, for people who disagree with me on those issues, that's fine. I like to find the common ground with people and work up from there instead of infighting about little issues like that. But anyway, the point is that libertarians are supposed to be part of the anti-establishment movement. We have a general anti-establishment movement that's composed of people from all ends of the political spectrum, but they're still outside of the left-right paradigm, and they realize that both of the two major parties are bought and paid for by the same elites, and they realize that there is a sort of a false paradigm going on. They realize the powers at the top are controlling things. They realize the whole thing's a scam and a sham, and they're trying to fight the status quo. So libertarians are supposed to be part of this anti-establishment movement, yet we have so many of these supposed libertarians now going over to support Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and these sorts of people, because they're sort of propped up in the mainstream media as being libertarians, because the mainstream media is obviously paid off by the very elites who want you to stay in perpetual bondage to them, so they are sort of trying to co-opt the libertarian movement and label some false libertarians and the whole nine yards. And that's just simple logic. Any reason would tell you that that's what's going on. Rand Paul and Ted Cruz are far from being libertarians. Rand Paul is far from his father. I was one of the biggest supporters of Ron Paul in 2012 when he was running for president. I think Ron Paul is a very principled man. I think he's the only one, or at least one of the only politicians that has been in Washington within the last several decades who has not compromised, who has not perverted his beliefs, who has not sold out to the establishment. And I have the utmost respect for him. And I think most people, even if they don't agree with his libertarian viewpoints, I think most people who are outside of the paradigm at least have respect for him for standing up for his beliefs and not selling out to the establishment, not selling out to a bunch of corporations and mega banks and lobbyists. But of course, then we have his son Rand Paul, completely different story. Came out a couple of years ago and endorsed Mitt Romney in 2012. He endorsed Mitch McConnell, right here in Kentucky, which I am from, the state of Kentucky, if you don't already know that. But his fellow Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell endorsed him. And of course, Mitch McConnell, as I pointed out in the article, has been on the payroll of all sorts of different mega banks and corporations. He got campaign contributions from J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs, as I pointed out. He's been on the payroll of Monsanto. Monsanto's paid him off several times. So, I mean, these are bad people. These are total establishment career politicians and total insiders that he's dealing with here, that Rand Paul is dealing with here. And it's showing us that he is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a libertarian. He is not anti-establishment. He's becoming part of the establishment. I know a lot of people are still liking to think, oh, well, he's just doing that. He's playing the establishment for a fool, and he's really going to get in there and do some good. Well, I got news for you. The establishment isn't going to be played for a fool that easily, folks. If we're going to take down the establishment, we have to work from the outside, not the inside. The establishment didn't get the way it is. These elites didn't get all their money and wealth by being stupid, by being ignorant. They are smart, they are intelligent, they know what's going on, and they're not going to be conned by some low-level senator from the state of Kentucky. So yes, he has joined the establishment, he has sold out, and maybe he does think that he can play the establishment. Maybe he does have some sort of principled belief that he holds dear. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is, principled libertarians, anti-establishment folks, we have to stop supporting people like Rand Paul, stop supporting people like Ted Cruz, stop supporting these Tea Party organizations, these co-opted movements, all of this ridiculous BS that the establishment is spewing out to try to split us all apart. So that is the deal with that. Well, we only have a few minutes left, and so I'll just take a few minutes to wrap things up here. If you're just tuning in, if you missed some of the show earlier, I made a big announcement tonight. I am stepping down from the show. This Friday is going to be my final show here on UCY, at least for quite some time. I don't know if I'm going to do another show in the future or if I'm going to reincarnate this show at some point in the future, but it likely will not happen for quite some time, as I said. And again, this Friday is going to be my last show. That being said, I would like to encourage you all to tune in this Friday. I'm going to try to do something interesting and different for the show, but I may wind up not doing that. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'd like to do something cool for the final show, but we'll just have to see what comes up, what I'm able to pull together, what I'm able to do. But I am going to be focusing on my writing now. And for those of you who would like to continue to follow my work, continue to follow my writing, I would encourage you. I know I've been criticized before for promoting my social media too much here on my show, but I will encourage you, especially since I'm not going to be doing this show for much longer, to follow all of my social media. You can follow me on Twitter at @ALlen845, and I'd also encourage you to go give me a like on Facebook at facebook.com/Liberty Battles. Again, that's facebook.com/Liberty Battles. And then on Twitter, it's at @ALlen845. So I would definitely encourage you to go follow both of those things. And of course, the alternative journalism page. That is, that's a big one. I am an admin over there. There are several other admins that post all kinds of good content over there. And I do post most of my, or at least a lot of my articles that I do over on that page as well. I do write now currently for digitaljournal.com and the antimedia.org, hopefully going to be expanding as I focus more on my writing career and do all this kinds of stuff. So yeah, definitely some stuff coming soon. You haven't heard the last of me. Maybe you've heard the last of me on this radio show after this week, but you haven't heard the last of me, period. I am still going to be here. So thank you all so much for tuning in this evening. Thanks for listening to the show. I think I just heard my bumper music kind of start, but it didn't play all the way through. It's supposed to be. This has happened a couple of weeks in a row, but oh well. I guess there's no bumper music this evening. Well, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Thanks for all of your continued support throughout my time here on UCY. Thanks for all your continued support in general. Thanks for listening tonight, and God bless all of you, and I guess I'm not going to get bumper music this evening.